I've spent my entire adult life watching Americans get priced out of basic shelter, and then I land in Norway and I'm staring at a high-spec, new-build apartment listing that works out to about $2,000 a month in 2026, like it's a normal Tuesday. Back home, $2,000 is a studio in a transitional neighborhood, plus parking, plus fees, plus the emotional tax of checking your email like it's a bomb. And before you say, Cap, I didn't just vibe check this. I cross-checked official rent surveys, tenant law, housing bank policy, and the latest US housing affordability data, because this channel isn't vibes. It's receipts. Here's the part that messed with my head. In the US, half of renters are cost-burdened, meaning they're spending 30% plus of income on housing, and I'm going to show you the exact moment Norway's system makes that statistic look like a policy choice, not a tragedy. But I'm saving the most brutal number for the end. Stay with me. Welcome back to Nexera, the channel where the USA is the control group, and Norway is the variable that makes Americans visibly malfunction. If you're tired of surface-level economy talk, that's basically horoscope content for grown-ups, subscribe. Not to support me. To join the small percentage of people who actually run the numbers and ask, why do our systems produce panic, while theirs produces stability? You're not a casual viewer here. You're an investigator. So picture this. I'm in Oslo, scrolling rentals like I'm defusing a device. I see, modern, high-spec apartment, and my American brain translates that to $4,500 per month plus a kidney. But then the math hits. In Norway, rent levels for Oslo are tracked in official surveys. The average rent for a quality 2-bedroom or spacious 1-bedroom in a nice neighborhood. Around 19,000 to 22,000 Norwegian kroner. That's roughly $1,800 to $2,100 US. Not fantasy land. Measurable, boring, regulated by actual rules. In the US, your rent is like a predator with legs. It can sprint. In Norway, rent is more like a train. It can move, but it's stuck to rails. Here's one rail: rent increases can only be adjusted once a year, indexed to the consumer price index. Landlord wants to raise rent? There's a procedure. There's 1 month's notice. There's timing. Not, surprise renewal letter, good luck. As an American, that alone feels illegal. Like, you're telling me my housing cost can't just randomly go up because a spreadsheet said, maximize? If you're the kind of person who hears, that's just how it is, and your brain immediately responds, no, that's how it's designed, subscribe. That click isn't fandom. It's you planting a flag that you're not sleepwalking through economics. Now, Norway does something that will jump scare Americans. The deposit. Oslo literally tells newcomers it's often 3 months' rent. And here's the key. It goes into a deposit account in your name. Your landlord can't just withdraw it for damages. They need a court order or your written agreement. In American terms, Norway makes you bring a chunky trust deposit, but then locks it in a box where your landlord can't just raid it on move-out day. In the US, you can pay first, last, deposit, admin fee, pet fee, and still lose your deposit to cleaning fees that somehow cost more than hiring an actual cleaning crew. Let's pull the US baseline from Harvard's housing research. In 2023, 22.4 million renter households, half of all renters, were cost-burdened, and 27% were severely cost-burdened, meaning more than half their income goes to housing and utilities. By 2026, that number has only climbed. That's not budgeting. That's drowning with good posture. So when I say, I rented a high-spec apartment for $2,000, I'm not saying Norway is cheap. I'm saying the shape of the market is different. Norway tries to reduce volatility, so housing feels less like gambling and more like infrastructure. And right here is where your brain might go, okay, so Norway just has rent control and free apartments and unicorns. Nope. Norway's lower-income renters in the private market can face rent burdens approaching 29% or higher in OECD data, especially for those outside social housing. So Norway isn't a paradise where rent is magically tiny. It's a country where the system cushions the fall through policy, stability, and the fact that housing isn't treated like a pure extraction machine. So Norway isn't cheap. It's predictable. And predictable is what Americans forgot housing could feel like. Alright, this is the dilemma, and I want you in the comments. If you were Jordan, our American narrator, moving to Oslo in 2026, would you rather take the $2,000 modern apartment deal with a big deposit that's protected in your name? Or stay in the US where deposits are smaller but rent can spike, renewals can blindside you, and eviction risk is higher? And yes, I'm reading the comments. I want to see which side you choose and why, because your reasoning tells me what kind of economic pain you've normalized. Now let's talk about the part Americans don't have, Norway's state housing bank, Husbanken, which provides start loans and housing grants specifically designed to prevent people from being crushed by the housing market and to help disadvantaged people acquire and keep housing. That's not charity, that's state capacity. In the US, housing help often feels like a lottery ticket with a waitlist. In Norway, the system is built more like a fire department. It doesn't guarantee your house won't catch fire, but it assumes fire happens and prepares to respond. Norway can still be expensive day to day. Oslo isn't some cheap city. But the cost you're really paying in America isn't just dollars. It's cortisol, the constant uncertainty, the instability premium. And once you see housing like this, like a system design problem, you start noticing the same patterns in healthcare, education, wages, and debt. This video is part of a larger investigation we're building on Nexera, what Americans pay for privately that Norwegians pay for collectively. Subscribe so the algorithm actually feeds you the next installment, because if you don't, you'll just get another loud video telling you inflation is a personality flaw. And if you know someone who keeps saying Norway is socialist so it doesn't count, send them this episode. Share it, because the data doesn't care about political branding, only outcomes. In the US, eviction is not rare. Eviction Lab's tracking shows eviction filings have largely returned near historic averages, and in some places it's worse than pre-pandemic, like Phoenix. That's housing insecurity baked into the machine. Eviction isn't just losing a home. It's job instability, school disruption, health collapse. It's a life tax you pay for being poor at the wrong time. And yes, America has rental vacancies. The US Census reports a 7.1% rental vacancy rate in Q3 2025. But vacancy doesn't automatically translate into affordability when pricing power, income inequality, and investor incentives are pulling the strings. This is the moment my skepticism started cracking. Norway didn't solve housing by making it cheap. They solved the terror by making it governed. Remember the open loop? The brutal number I promised at the end? Here it is. In the US, 22.4 million renter households, half of all renters, were cost-burdened in 2023, and projections show that number climbing toward 22.6 million by 2026. That's not a niche crisis. That's the mainstream condition. And Norway, for all its issues, is running a different experiment. Reduce volatility, build institutional support, and treat housing like social stability, not a casino. If you watch to the end, you're in the 1% who actually cares how systems work, not just how they feel. Welcome to the team. Drop your answer to Jordan's dilemma in the comments, hit like if this made you rethink affordable, and subscribe, because Nexera isn't here to comfort you. We're here to show you the blueprint.